One of the topics that you might consider for a possible research project in applied linguistics would be language exchanges. And I have it listed here under discourse analysis, but it could also apply to language testing if you're looking at how formative or summative assessments are being used in language exchange types of scenarios. But when you think about language exchanges, one example would be some experiences that we've had here at the university where whole groups are gathered into a computer lab, and then they have an exchange. So they have a class, a 1 hour class with maybe a group from the United States who are learning Spanish, and they divide up their time, typically half speaking in English, the other half in Spanish, and so that the learners then have an opportunity to not only practice the target language, but also help their partner learn their target language as well. So this is one example of a language exchange that you could conduct research in and look at maybe 2 or 3 or 4 individuals. So you can look at maybe a case study or multiple case study with particular students that are participating, or you can look at it from a group standpoint and look at how the teacher interacts with the language exchanges, possibly not only during the language exchange itself, but how the language exchange is connected with the face-to-face classes that they have before and after. So you could look at, for example, the courses or the classes rather that are leading up to the language exchange and how those classes relate to preparing the students to conduct their language exchange. So there's a lot of different approaches that you could take when you look at language exchanges. In this example, specifically talking about group exchanges. Now, you could also look at individuals or learners, language learners, who are possibly using other technologies like LiveMocha, other websites that are designed to group language learners individually, and perhaps do some sort of research, again at an individual level, looking at certain students and how they conduct their language exchanges through outside sources and how they do it individually. And this would require that you do some sort of screencast or recording, so that every time that they were conducting the language exchange, you would have that as evidence. So you'd have to record their conversation and have all that information available, and you'd have to coordinate that with the students, making sure that everything was recorded, so then you could go back and look at that and analyze that. Again, from a discourse analysis perspective, I'm including it here under discourse analysis with the idea being that you would basically do a transcription and then look at different patterns of discourse and seeing how different conversations were being conducted, and it's going to depend a lot on your problem statement. So making sure that you are aligning your problem statement with the argument that you're conducting or that you're developing as part of your theory. But you can look at language exchanges both from a group standpoint, looking at how whole groups are doing their language exchanges. From a whole group language exchange, you could also focus on individual learners. And another option would be looking at language learners and how they're conducting language exchanges outside the class and how they're doing it individually. So that would be completely on their own. It might be part of a classroom assignment, but essentially they would be responsible for coordinating these language exchanges outside of class. And again, you would have to make sure that you get that recorded. Even in the case of a whole group scenario, you would also need to get this recorded. And again, the easiest way is some sort of third-party software, Camtasia, for example, or some other software. I think you could probably get some free software out there that's available that you could download and install, and making sure that everything that was being discussed and shared online was being captured. So these are some ideas to consider when looking at the topic of language exchanges and how one might conduct some research with regard to applied linguistics, that is language learning, looking at different problems related to both teaching and learning of a of an additional language. So I hope this helps. Feel free to leave comments or questions below, and good luck.